Hey there. As of the time this episode is going out on the early release feed, shit is really bad in Texas because of the ice storm and, frankly, the government's and power companies' complete indifference to helping people, seemingly. And it's not likely to be too much better by the time this reaches the public feed. So instead of doing a call to action for selfish stuff, just going to say take this moment to look into various mutual aid funds in Texas, Austin Mutual Aid, Dallas Mutual Aid. Feed the People Dallas is a really good one based on what I can find. Do some research and see if you can throw some money at that direction, because nobody's going to take care of us if we don't take care of each other.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to the February Dispatch episode for Watch Out for Fireballs, our monthly Q&A, listener response, game announcement topic show.
It is a whole thing. We're going to answer your questions, respond to your prompts, have a topic. And February has a lot of games. It feels like it was forever ago that we talked about Monster Train, Gary.
It really does.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody mentioned Monster Train, which means I got to fire up a quick game.
I got to go in and do just an hour long run. That would be disastrous if I fired that up now, because I've lost my mojo on that, man. It's
Everything
been too
would
long.
break.
Yeah.
I definitely still have my mojo. I'm waiting for that DLC.
Yes.
But we're going to go ahead and, of course, we're going to announce April's games as well.
Koi Boys.
At the end. Koi Boys. You can wait until the end. I'm actually going to reveal one letter of each game, the title of each game in every sentence I do, and then not say it. So you have to get the Reddit detectives on the case.
Yeah.
Because we're sick of people just going. I'm not sick of it at all. I can't keep this up.
No,
I don't have the energy for this.
No.
Let's just instead get into it and stop fucking around like a couple of jackasses.
Yeah. Thanks, Brock. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with an especially energetic Dottie. She is literally like running along vertical surfaces as though they were the floors.
Like wall jumping?
Yeah, and is biting at my arms very viciously. If I close the door, she will scratch and scream. So, yeah.
Become ungovernable.
Just inarticulate yelling.
Yeah, just I love it.
Yeah.
I really respect cats.
Yeah, just I got off too easy with Greta and Dottie as being Spice Cat today.
Yeah. I'll get us started here with Doug. Doug asks, the indie space seems to be fertile ground for old genres to get new spiritual successors. Is there an old genre that you feel deserves a revisit?
Rhythm games.
Yeah, people really like that Fuser game. Apparently that's pretty fun, but I don't like a lot of pop music.
That's the thing.
I have to like the music to like a rhythm game.
Yes.
Which is, not everybody is like that, but I have to. So I would really like a new Rhythm Heaven of some kind.
Yes, that I would like an indie take on Rhythm Heaven. It wouldn't have to be long. I just want like catchy beats and fun little like setups for mini games and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. In terms of like old genres that aren't represented now, that's probably the main one I can think of.
Yeah.
You know, we get a lot of things now. Like I feel like there aren't very many genres I can think of where it's like, oh, we don't get that type of game.
Yeah. Like I would have said like golf game, but those are kind of, like they're just kind of always there. Yeah. Like they just announced the Mario Golf yesterday,
Yeah.
Like it's still continuing.
I also would have said tactics because those are kind of rare, but they announced a new tactics game.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's fun.
Hopefully. Yeah. Dottie just yanked one of my sound panels off the wall.
I love Dottie so much. I'm just such a fan of Dottie trying to destroy this network. Yeah.
I'm sorry to have her interrupt. She literally, she looked up at it. She looked up at the paneling, and then just was like, fuck this, and jumped up.
We live in a muciety.
Jumped up, sunk all four of her claws into it, and then pulled it off the Velcro.
Yes. Yes. So. Just like me sicko's shirt outside your window. Just like, yes. Oh,
Greta, get in here. Get your boy. Come on. So, let's see here. Paul writes, how does procedural generation affect your immersion in games? I started Daggerfall on a recommendation from the Dusk developer, and while I like the flavor, I find I'm needing to suspend my disbelief deliberately to get over the knowledge that the world is generated by a computer. It's not the same as being in a designed space with proper names and local lore. It's an issue that I've had with recent games, like big robot titles, So You're Being Hunted, and The Light Keeps Us Safe. Games I'd otherwise be super excited about. We Happy Few is another prime example.
Yeah. We talked about this a lot when we covered Dead Cells.
Yes.
I remember that coming up. Like, a procedurally generated world is something that I can dig for the right type of game, but can do a lot of damage in the wrong type of game.
I mean, operatively, like Remnant is kind of running into that for me a little bit,
I can see it. Like, yeah. I need to still revisit. I'm still making my progress on that to talk about it. But it's, Sir, You're Being Hunted, which is a game I didn't love, but I thought the randomness worked for that because it was like, oh, I'm going to roll up a world.
Yeah.
And it's just going to procedurally have these things. But other games, like a Remnant, where I'm expecting sense of place and level design to be a little bit more intentional, it can be a huge bummer. It doesn't necessarily affect my immersion, so much, because it's very hard. Like, something that feels very designed is also very immersion breaking to me.
Yeah.
We talked about The Last of Us this month, and it's like, oh, I just went into a courtyard full of waist high walls. Like, I know what happens here. But immersion is one of those things too that I think that my gamer psychographic does not value as much as some other people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, I just for me, how does it affect it? I think that there are a lot of things that are like procedurally generated that like they're the forests in Oblivion or proc gen, right? Like each of those trees is not placed there. I think that it's just a matter of, is it appropriate?
Yeah. So yeah, kind of a bummer, but does not necessarily affect immersion for me. Don't be such a shit.
Good
all
advice.
One word. Yeah, such a shit. It says, earlier this year, I blind bought Yoku's Island Express on an eShop sale, and while I would try to save my blown away for once-in-a-lifetime types of experiences, I was so thoroughly swept up in the chemistry of Metroidvania meets pinball. A couple of days and 10 hours of play later, I got one of the most satisfying 100% in my gaming life. I'll save my gushing over the game for another time, but I quickly realized how often in the past pinballifying a game can work for me, despite not actually caring about pinball itself. Both Pokemon pinball games as well as Mario Pinball Land were big hits for me in the younger years and hold up for me today. My question is, what oddball genre hybrids have snuck up on you and been a hit?
Roguelike card game. Strategy game kind of thing. Monster Train snuck up on me.
Monster Train is good.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, I like card strategy game. So Metal Gear Acid games.
Yeah.
That's a really weird hybrid, and I remember really loving those games. I'm scared to revisit because I don't want it to be talky bullshit. From a pretentious ass.
Did you forget that was there? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to have that experience, but that's a really weird mashup that I really love. And this kind of genre stuff is rad as hell.
Yeah.
Like and it's really in. So like, yeah, at one point, Isaac or Gungeon were this as well. Like dual stick shooter plus procedural dungeon crawler.
Yeah. You can't say that adding pinball to something works especially well for me, but I had never heard of this Yoku's Island Express.
It's supposed to be very fun. Riff is a huge fan of it. It looks neat.
Yeah.
Wizorb, the RPG Breakout.
Oh,
game from like 2012.
Oh shit, yeah, Wizorb, yeah.
That game's good. Yeah, I remember liking that quite a bit.
Let's see here. Ethan writes, as a collector of consoles and games with an ever-increasing physical and virtual backlog, I am often confronted with the paralysis of choice. Time is so limited, and with so many games to play, both old and new, I often find myself starting a game, playing it a bit, and then getting the urge to play a different game for fear of missing out. I am sure as podcasters, it helps since so much of what you play is dictated by the demands of your shows. But I figured I would ask anyway, how do you deal with the paralysis of choice? Do what you feel. Do what feels good.
Yeah, do what you feel.
Yeah.
Be like the boy.
Be like boy.
I do what I feel like. I try not to, when I am playing video games for pleasure and not for work, I do my absolute best not to force any square pegs through a round hole.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that like I should be playing this is something I try to divest myself of. You know, and that requires killing the sunk cost part of you.
Yeah.
Be it either in terms of hours or in money. Like I have just kind of come to peace with the dissonance of having my Steam library and my GOG library.
Yes.
And my Epic library just being full of games that I'm ostensibly interested in, but may never get a chance to play.
Right.
And I know I say this a lot, but the way that I made peace with that is realizing that I'm not going to get a chance to do everything no matter what.
Nope.
So it's kind of arbitrary which things I'm going to get a chance to do.
I've already played a number of Assassin's Creed games. I'm currently just replaying the Ezio ones because I like those games. I wanted something open world, and those are comforting. I don't need there are more things that I could be playing besides Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, but it's a good ass game, and I'm having fun just like dipping into it and doing like a couple of sequences. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just do what feels good. I used to do like backlog management kind of stuff. Like, oh, I need a list of this. Now what I do is I just keep a list of all the games that I've beaten. And like keep it separated by year, so I can look and see, oh, like this is the stuff that I beat this year. That's cool. That's part of my story. You know?
Yeah.
So like that backward looking part of it has helped get rid of the fear of missing out because I do play stuff, you know?
There's literally like, it's literally our jobs to play games, but when it's not my job to play a game, I don't want to feel like it is.
No.
You know, and there's kind of, you know, as I get older, I get a little like less sympathetic to the responsibility angle of art.
Right.
You know, and not because I think that you shouldn't take in enriching stuff, like you shouldn't read enriching books or difficult books or watch difficult movies and such. It's that doing it under duress is a really bad way to do it.
It's a great way to like resent good books. You like it like you did in high school when they made you read books that are good. Frankenstein rules. It sucks to read in 10th grade.
Yeah, like I would have a much better time if I just, you know, wait to see if I come around to it. And if I don't, I'm going to come around to other stuff instead, and it's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I have been getting back into reading, like via audiobook. So only kind of, but it's felt really good to do that. And the pathway for me into that was like tragedy and darkness, you know, just like learning about that stuff. And, you know, you could get like, oh, like you're reading a second book about Chernobyl when you haven't read an Infinite Jest. And it's like, well, I don't wanna. Yeah. It's not interesting to me right now. And it may be really good, but if I force myself to do it, I'm not going to turn around.
That's a great way to make sure nobody's happy.
So that's what it feels like. It's like, I'm just going to be cranky about it. And there are people who don't think that way. They're like, oh, no, I think it's really important to like make yourself do these kind of things, and I don't agree.
Well, I don't tell you.
I was told recently that I'll die someday.
Yeah,
you know, like I don't want to make myself do shit. Like you know, like I'll do other stuff instead. And if I die having not, you know, watched Hannibal, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'll be okay. I'll be just as much a life as you. You know, just also happy and good. I did other stuff instead.
Yeah,
you know.
I did other stuff instead. The Gary Butterfield story.
Yeah, it's such a weird false scarcity. Like it's like it is scarcity, but it's this weird patronizing thing of like imposing on someone else how they should prioritize literally the only valuable thing in the world. You know, which is like you're allotted so much life to experience things, and the idea of, you know, oh man, I can't believe that you haven't read like all of the classics. Like that's incredibly important for someone to read all of the classics of literature, to read the Western canon. And I'm like, well, you know, I only get so many fucking tokens, man. Yeah. Like you unleash me in an arcade with $5 worth of quarters. And like, yes, I should play Pac-Man and Breakout and, Arkanoid and Mappy and stuff. But maybe I just want to go play Street Fighter for a little bit.
Maybe I want to play House of the Dead for the 100th time,
Yeah, totally. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. If you feel like you're missing out specifically because of social pressure or whatever, anybody who wants to talk about something that is currently like in the moment, they've got plenty of people to talk about it with, complete strangers, people that they know, etc. If you take a couple of years to get down the road to like play something and you say, oh, I just played X, Y, or Z, the reaction that you're going to get is, oh, I love that. And then you can talk to them about it. Or that person will turn you into a specimen and say, oh my God, I wish I could play that for the first time. Let me like get your, let's talk about it so I can, see it through fresh eyes with you. The thing about the conversation is like, yes, it's going to move on. It is a river. You never step in the same one twice, but you can always just start a new one with somebody else that you care about. Like you're not going to like isolate yourself. You're still going to find a way to connect to people. So.
Yeah. And it's like the social pressure, and don't internalize that pressure.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there can be social pressure to that, but don't do that to yourself. The world will do that to you enough without you internalizing negative, shitty, being crappy and hard on yourself.
Gary, I think that we've been fucking around in this low stakes video game podcast racket for 10 years. We need to graduate to the big bucks of self-help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's stop fucking around.
Patreon.com/Duckfeel.tv.
Oh God. Yeah. Now Dottie is swiping at my hands like they are birds. Yeah. No,
I love her. Time and Watch says, do you have any good examples of a video game that taught you something, either a skill or a life lesson? I'm an educator by profession and play games as a hobby, but always wondered what opportunities there are for the two to intersect. Currently, the gamification of education is usually low effort reward schemes or simulation based training. I wonder if video games could be a tool to try to help shape future generations in a more progressive or positive direction. Maybe playing through a video game and discussing it could be part of early education that might, if we could solve the access issues. There's no reason. I don't think there's any reason why, like, when you're doing a humanities course, you shouldn't talk about like Papers, Please, or something like that, or a history course. Yeah. And have that be part of a guided education experience.
Yeah. If you're doing a unit on East Berlin and West Berlin, right?
Yeah. I think that there's no reason why that just straight up, and they don't have to be, edutainment games or gamified productivity things. For that, I would say like take the medium as it is and treat the entries of them as texts.
Yeah. Sim City would be a really good one for like a civics class, right?
Yeah. They did a Sim Refinery, like they made that version to train people.
Oh yeah.
That very rare version of made by Maxis. So and then there's a reason why kids like went nuts over Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
In kids or in school. It's not that educational, as a game, but doing it. So I think that rather than trying to make specific edutainment games that do that, I think taking games that are about certain themes, like doing them as part of the humanities would be my opinion on that.
Yeah. Agreed. And examples of like times a video game taught me like something in particular, that's hard to say. Time management. I don't know. Something like that.
I learned a very surface level about voodoo from Gabriel Knight.
Yeah. Riven taught me different bases, base 10, base 25, stuff like that. So let's see here. We can do this one real quick and I'll move on to the next one. Mark says, love the Monster Train episode. Thanks for giving me an excuse to check out this gem of a roguelike. You might have mentioned in a previous episode already, but have you run across any roguelikes that would have been better without the randomization or vice versa? Dead Cells is our canonical example of that. Did you have
Dead
any
Cells
other
should have just been, Dead Cells should have just been a Metroidvania.
Yes. Yeah. I'll do the next one here. Joseph says, how do you guys feel about the recent rumors about the RE4 remake? If I'm correct, Capcom has taken over development and are changing up the story and stuff. If it's true, I'm excited to see what direction they're going to go with the story and characters. I hope they don't cut a lot, which is my, and I'm sure a lot of other people's biggest fear. I do wish that they would do a Code Veronica remake before RE4. Also, a friend of mine who doesn't really play games but does enjoy them just picked up RE4. Once she gets to the game, or at least most of it, I'll be pointing her to y'all's episode about RE4, since I recently showed your podcast to her and she likes it. Thank you for spreading the word.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph.
Yeah.
I will, anything Capcom does with Resident Evil right now, I'm going to be interested in.
Yes.
I'm not that specifically interested in RE4 remake, because RE4 stands up really well. But it's fine. Like I need to play it and see what they're doing. And the old one won't go away. It's available on every single system. You know, like RE4 is one of the most ported games ever.
Yeah.
You can play RE4 on almost anything. So that'll still be there for me.
Yeah. I feel pretty much the same. My worry would be that, like, if they still feel like they need to get it out by a particular date, if this particular struggle will like hurt and compromise whatever new thing is, because they lost time and resources by doing a restart or what have you. So I'm less worried about like what they intend to do and more like what comes out as a result of the business kind of necessities that come up. Yeah.
Fenriliania, our patron who produced our Outer Wilds episode, asks, on both personal and professional levels, how does morality play into your decision to buy/play/cover a game? Does problematic content, for example, transphobia in Cyberpunk 2077, horrendous work conditions, such as Rockstar's crunch, Ubisoft's sexual harassment, or military-funded propaganda, i.e. Call of Duty, affect your decisions, and have you found it affecting your base interest? Personally, learning of these aspects both completely nullifies my excitement and interest in these games and gives me a conscious objection to them. I feel like we've answered, like we talked about versions of this.
Yeah,
before.
Specifically like saying everybody draws their own line.
Yeah. And I you know, the distinction that Fenriliania has here is really important, where they talk about it giving the conscious objection and nullifying the excitement.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about like, or I think a lot about, if it interferes with your enjoyment, like you just can't enjoy that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a really big step. Like, I think that we want to be bigger than that. And we want to feel like those, you know, the concerns of joy and entertainment are below us, but really they do kind of go hand in hand. And it's for me, with people who have been like canceled or shitty or have problematic elements, whether whether that knowledge fucks up or interferes with my original enjoyment really matters to where I'll hold my line. Like the two things I look at are like, is it currently supporting monsterism?
Right.
And supporting monsterism to the detriment of other things, right? Like we talked about at some point, Red Dead Redemption 2. Like we have a listener who worked on that game who was like, yeah, I'd love for you guys to play this. And like, you know, that's great. Like they yes, there was a lot of shitty crunch and horrible abuse things, but also people on that thing want their shit to be played.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of times a decision of very few people. And knowing about the crunch didn't make me feel super grossed out. I just got pissed at Rockstar.
Yeah.
It didn't affect the work that much.
Right. Right.
You know, so it's very complicated, and that's why it ends up being a own line gut check thing.
Yeah, and for me, and you can call this moral cowardice if you would like to. I'm fine with whatever judgment you want to throw at it. For me, if I decide to start drawing lines like that, it suddenly becomes very difficult to find things that I can feel good about enjoying. In terms of like, you know, if you think about, okay, I do not, to take it to a different kind of thing, I do not want to patronize Amazon. Well, okay, don't use anything on the internet then, because if you click on the right thing, Amazon makes a couple of cents because they put the backbone up behind everything. A sufficiently big company will start trafficking in, you know, bad development processes. There will be shitty managers who take advantage of people in any number of different ways, you know, and you kind of turn into Cheaty from The Good Place if you end up kind of paralyzed by analysis on it. In terms of like trying to decide what is qualified or disqualified. So that comes from a point of spectacular privilege, because I am not necessarily impacted very directly by like, you know, problematic content.
A lot of these things.
Yeah, by a lot of these things. But that's a little bit where it becomes, difficult to live if you maximize discernment, or if you maximize your discrimination on that to the point where you lose the ability for critical discernment, let's say.
It's not saying, there's a difference between the argument that you're making or like our stance. Like the straw man version of what we're saying is there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so everything goes. That's not true.
No.
But it's also not true that because there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, nothing goes.
Yeah.
And finding that space between isn't like so incredibly subjective. There are games that like I have, so like, what is that? Like Edith Finch. Like, I was pretty excited about that. That's the one I'm thinking of. And it's like, oh, the dude's kind of a shithead. Gamergate adjacent. It's like, you know what? I'll do other things.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That was, it's one dude. It was kind of an auteur thing. It was a small project. I was like, okay, fine. I can not play that game. That decision was easy. When I think about, something like at some point I will probably play another Rockstar Ubisoft game, because they're huge, or another CD Projekt Red game. I haven't played Cyberpunk yet, but maybe someday. They have like super shitty like transphobia baiting social media experiences. They have really, really horrible crunch. I want to amplify the fact that exists. I don't want to hide that.
Yeah.
But it may or may not be the thing that makes me not play it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
in terms of covering stuff for the show, we tend to be a little bit more careful about that, but only when things are like super egregious.
Yes.
Like we're not going to play Postal or Hatred or whatever, not only because we don't want to and we have no interest, but also that's not the kind of thing we want to platform on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Even just from even on Abject Suffering, we don't really want to put that on there. Right.
Yeah. There's a reason why we've never done Custer's Revenge, even though it's shown up in the suggestion box like a million times.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So big, complicated mess.
Yep. We didn't solve it.
Nope. Let's see here. Do I do one more game question before moving on to the other stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. God damn it, Dottie. Sorry.
Not a question.
Nope. Shane writes, have either of you delved much into speedrunning yourselves outside of games that specifically reward you for it, like the old school Resident Evils? I find the communities that arise from certain games fascinating, especially ones that aren't that popular. The fact that there are games where 15 people are super into completing them as fast as possible, and the rest of the world doesn't care, is just cool to me. Exploring those little pockets of obsession can be worthwhile. This is fast for me? No, because speedrunning, the idea of even trying to do it stresses me out.
Yeah, it's stressful. I speed ran Dark Souls for like a summer and got down to 2 hours and didn't learn the send skip. And now there are a bunch of other skips.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. It was kind of like fun to do it. But now I don't think that I would get into it. I think I tried to do Mario 1 once as well. Yeah. Because I was like, this is holding to the right and just hitting jump at the right times. Like it might be fun to just watch. I love watching those levels get completed really quickly. At full bore, but I just didn't have the dedication to it. I wanted more variety.
Yeah.
Moving on to life questions. Greg asks, I've sometimes wondered what my chances would be in the event of a zombie outbreak or some other mass extinction event where the world quickly goes to hell. Honestly, not good, I think. For example, take guns. I've never touched a gun in my life, much less fired one. However, my friends who do own them say that I'm best off with a shotgun when I break into the gun shop because they're easy to use. Have you thought about what you might do in a situation where you're forced to learn new skills on the fly and how well or badly you might do?
Yeah, shotgun's probably best. They're very simple machines compared to a semi-automatic pistol or even like a rifle.
Or a railgun.
Yeah. Oh, good man, railguns.
Or a Metal Gear.
A Metal Gear.
Navy SEALs.
Ooh, Navy SEALs. I love that joke so much.
I know, it's one of the best.
Oh man. I think, not going to speak for everybody, but a lot of dudes like us with our interests have probably had these conversations idly, either at a job we didn't care about or what have you. Haven't thought about this in a while. I have not put too much thought into this because I basically just decided I would probably, anything anything outside of just admitting that I will either go crazy or just punch my own ticket, it feels like macho grandstanding. I am not tough enough to survive after society, so I will probably completely lose my shit and need to be put down or just opt out.
Yeah, you live in a society, you die in not a society.
Yes. Yeah.
This has come up a couple times on like Guppy and various other. I'm sure we've talked about in Abject Suffering as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would be difficult for me to my skills to translate.
Yes.
Into anything. I don't think I'd be good at committing violence, regardless of how it was done. Mm-hmm. And I would not be that interested in it. So I don't think that I would necessarily, punch my own ticket, but I think that I would just try to survive.
Yeah.
And probably fail. Mm-hmm. So I got really into I made a go bag.
Oh yeah,
in an Amazon cart at one point during the protest in Portland and stuff, just because I was freaking out a little bit. Not because I thought black clad Antifa members were going to skin me alive or whatever, but because there were like military trucks going up and down the street constantly.
It was really serious. Yeah.
Yeah. What a fucking year, man.
Yeah.
But so I got into that and was kind of looking into how to do that stuff, and then realized man, I can't even sleep without fucking up.
Right.
Without dying. Like if I had to do this under a canopy of leaves or something, I'm soft.
Yeah.
I'm made for this world, not for the next one.
Yeah. I do not want to take resources from the people who are made for the next one.
Or survivors.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck up their chance just because I want to eat a fucking hamburger. They deserve it.
I don't want anybody to worry about me because I spoke so blithely about punching my own ticket. That I don't mean to make light of that or anything. I just, I think about how much I am a creature of society, and it becomes a utilitarian choice at that point, probably. So that is purely hypothetical, not something I actually think about, just so people don't think I'm being blasé about it.
Yeah. What is the next question?
The next question, Mark writes, right after MLK Day, we've got no good holidays until Memorial Day here in the States. What official holidays would you create or swap for this part of the year? I'll take a low-hanging fruit. President's Day should be changed to post-Super Bowl Monday as the official day off in February.
I would be fine if President's Day I don't like because it's celebrating presidents.
Right.
But some kind of Valentine's Day as a national holiday I would take. We could have a love day. Love is important to people.
Yeah.
And when you're in school, you just you give Valentine's to everybody. Mm-hmm. It's like a friendship day or a camaraderie day or connection with your fellow person day is a good idea. Mm-hmm. After that, though, there's also no good holidays for quite a while.
There isn't. So I would do Arbor Day or something. We need a good
Nature Day.
Yeah, we need a good dependable day in spring.
Al Gore Day.
Yeah. Al Gore
Inconvenient
Arbor
Truth Day.
Yeah. Just where everybody gets real.
Yeah. Bowling for Columbine Day.
Man on Wire Day.
Yeah. Really, we're looking for a documentary day is what we're talking about.
Oh, I'd be fine with that.
Making of a Murderer Day. Yeah. But yeah, we do need something in the April.
Yeah, in that corridor. Because it's a real it's a real bummer there. Yeah.
When I worked at the university, you noticed the fuck out of this.
Yep.
It was just oh fuck. After MLK, it's just nothing.
Dottie is now chewing on and pulling my hair. Hey Dottie, stop. She's standing on top of my gamer chair here.
Dottie's playing the long con.
Yeah.
Moving on to media questions before we do the lightning round and the topic. Eli says, yo, loving Orb. Very happy to finally have watched a great show like The Venture Brothers. Listening to you talk about what you like about the show, I'm reminded in some spaces about my own favorite show, though. The humor is very different, but the use of continuity and jokes setting up later points is also very similar in Adventure Time. My question is, I'm aware from random shows that you've both watched some amount of Adventure Time, but how much?
Probably the first 4 or 5 seasons, something like that.
Same.
Yeah.
Before Finn lost his arm.
Yes.
But with the Fire Queen.
Right.
With the kind of love triangle, puberty stuff.
Yes, we both kind of fell off at about the same time. There was a long gap there where they did like half seasons and like a season of specials at around that time. Yeah. And like I didn't stop because I disliked that it was getting more serious. I think it was just like a distribution and time attention thing. I like that show quite a bit. Like what I saw of it. It's very sweet, very good hearted.
Yeah, I love it. Like it's been on my perpetual, like I would like to go and just finish out, especially since the movies that came out are supposed to be very good. Like the wrap up stories that come up. I love Adventure Time. Adventure Time is wonderful.
Yeah. One of my just absolute favorite episodes of any cartoon, Dungeon Train, which is a really good exploration of how some people just need to deal with depression by playing video games. Yeah. Dungeon Train is amazing.
What a good show.
Yeah. Stuart writes, playing any tabletop RPGs lately? For some reason, this time of year really gets my GM brain going, pandemic or no, and I end up playing multiple games each week. If not, is there a tabletop RPG you're looking to play once you and your friends can all sit at the same table again?
Kind of a Gary question, because I'm the tabletop man. I assume I don't want to speak for you if you're going to get into
I'll do mine real quick. I'm not playing it, but over Christmas I got myself the King and Yellow RPG box set.
Oh, nice.
That beautiful thing.
I kickstarted that. Yeah.
Where
the slipcase turns into the screen.
Yeah, into the GM screen, and I got the fifth book, the Absinthe and Carcosa. Like I did the whole physical set, not with the intention of playing it. I just wanted to read it for more King and Yellow content. So I've just been kind of slowly working through that. Just set it on my coffee table and read a few pages at a time when I need a break. Yeah,
I have not read that yet, but I have it. It is making nice shelf candy.
It's good.
We still have our game group. We do it most weeks, but there are a lot of skip weeks because I think it's because it's less fun and kind of less motivating to get together on Discord. We're currently playing the prequel adventure to Baldur's Gate 3 called Descent into Avernus that my friend Levi has adapted for a game called Fragged Kingdom, which is just a horrible name, but it's a pretty fun game.
Yeah, you've taught it.
Pretty mechanically sound. And after that, Riff, who I mentioned earlier, is going to run a game called Heart, which I don't know very much about. And then I am going to run a Shadowrun game using pre-published modules as adventure ideas to hit a bunch of Shadowrun greatest hits in terms of the lore. And I think I'm going to run it in a Powered by the Apocalypse hack of Shadowrun, because the Shadowrun system is no bueno. I also finally got my garage set up to have a big work table in the garage.
Cool.
And I've been buying single player board games. And for Christmas, I bought myself a copy of Too Many Bones, which is a dice builder that I played with Levi, that we used to play once a month during Game Brunch, but you can play it by yourself. And I started doing kind of solo board games, which is very fun. It's like, I feel like, you go in the garage, I put on some music. I have a space heater out there.
Yeah.
I live in a small house, so it ends up feeling very like, it feels kid like to me. It captures some young energy.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about having a garage.
Yeah. It feels really good, and it's fun. Like I am just playing by myself, which is a little bit silly, playing against the computer or playing against the cards.
They make games. But, they design games for that though, so that stops being silly.
Well, it's more fun to play with people, right? Like this kind of tactics stuff. Like Too Many Bones is a tactical game, like Final Fantasy Tactics or what have you. Yeah. It'd be more fun to play with more people. Yeah. But as is, I'm still having fun playing it by myself, like throwing on a podcast and building some little critters.
136 custom dice. Good God.
Yeah. Too Many Bones.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Dice bones.
Yeah. Get before anyone who looks that up judges me too harshly, the aesthetics on that game are some of the worst I've ever seen in my fucking life. I am not standing by those drawings. I am just standing by the mechanics of that game. Those character design is fucking repulsive.
That's so much easier to do with this kind of stuff, though. Like
totally.
you can wireframe a Too Many Bones. Yeah.
I don't really see the characters, but when I look at the official art or whatever, I'm like, who are these fucking oily wax goblins that they're using? It's just really, and the humor, there's like a lot of like humor that misses for me, but the actual mechanics are rock solid.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for a tactical kind of light board game, like dice builder, character builder game, it's really good for that.
Nice.
Feels good to level up.
Yeah. Agreed.
shall we lightning round?
We shall lightning round. Let's see here. Marcus writes, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay? Nay, but primarily because I don't really like cooked fruit very much.
I'm a yay.
Cool.
Samu Bear says, now that it's a more established thing, do you ever do refunds on Steam or any other digital platform that offers it? As I get older, I've gotten a lot better at admitting I'm just not into a game and pulling the ripcord. Pretty rarely. Me and Derek will fuck around and just kind of choose stuff that's on sale sometimes just to play, co-op. And if it turns out to be like just absolutely like unplayable garbage, I'll get my $2 back or my $3 back if it's just really horrible. But I haven't done it with a big game in quite a while.
Yeah, I've done it a handful of times, mostly because of like technical problems, like getting it to run in a smooth way. But I'm not opposed to it or anything. I'm glad that it's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love this name. Alexander writes, hello, only one question. Armored Core retrospective. When? Thank you. We've done Armored Core for Answer on WoF. I don't know that we have
or
more
for Bonfire Side Chat.
No, that
right?
was at a
WoF.
period of time when WoF wasn't when Bonfire Side Chat wasn't on. That was part of Mech Month.
Oh, I forgot about Mech Month. Jumping Flash. Yeah. I'm not going to do a series retrospective of those games. I don't like, I'm interested in them. I liked For Answer quite a bit. I would go back and play some of them, but the mech stuff is not catnip to me.
Right.
I am too bored looking at robots.
Yep.
So, not saying we'll never do another one.
Right.
Tom asks, I recently bought a leather jacket because it made me feel like Leon S. Kennedy in RE4. Have you ever bought an item of clothing to emulate a character in a game? If not, whose style would you most like to emulate?
I've thought about getting the M65 jacket that James wears in Silent Hill 2, because it's just army surplus. Just having an army surplus jacket seems kind of cool. They're not very comfortable is the thing. So whenever I've gone and tried them on, so that is as far as I've gone down that road.
This was something I did more when I was younger, or aspired to a lot more when I was younger. I'm not trying to say like this is a young person's thing, but I remember wanting to look like Setzer.
Oh yeah,
in Final Fantasy VI quite a bit.
Oh, of all the characters, Gary. Oh no.
Of course. Yeah, no, it's like the Gambit. Like I was on brand as a teen.
Yeah.
Now like I just I am very driven by comfort.
Yes.
Like you. As opposed to fashion. I'm not very fashionable, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So
that's what I like about the fashion mores, whatever, of the 2020s. Just it very much does prioritize comfort. You can be comfortable and still look put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just hanging out in a robe right now.
Yeah. No, I'm in basketball shorts and a t-shirt. That's fine.
Oh God, I love basketball shorts.
Basketball shorts are great.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Love basketball shorts. I want basketball everything. Like I want a basketball shirt. Like whatever that material is, it's just very good. Basketball bed.
HBS, huge basketball shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good shit.
And finally, here in the lightning round, we have Jordan, who asks, have you ever walked out of a theater due to the horrible quality of a film? Concurrently, what is the worst thing you ever sat all the way through? Not for a Duckfeed show. That changes it substantially.
Yeah, I misread this at first, and I thought it was saying, what is the worst thing you've ever sat through, not a Duckfeed show? Like the implication being we just sit through our recordings for a second. And I was like, oh, that's not very nice, Jordan. That doesn't sound like Jordan.
No, Jordan's nice.
I said this before when I was a teenager with my first girlfriend. We went and saw Wishmaster, and I had to leave. It grossed me out too much.
Right.
Too much body horror. And as of now, I just tend to shut things off because they're boring.
Yeah.
I do get invested in a movie. Like if I see a movie, I do want to see the end of it. Like me and my girlfriend watched Vampires in Brooklyn on Netflix, which is like a story about a bunch of kids in the Bronx, and the vampires who come in are all white and they're gentrifying and buying all the property.
Okay.
And I was like, that's really interesting. And it had an interesting like twist on a vampire thing where the vampires don't have to be invited in if they buy the building.
Oh.
And I'm like capitalist vampires, like that's a really cool idea. It was really kiddie and not super good.
Oh no.
But I sat through it because I was like, I'm invested at this point. I'll finish watching the thing.
Yeah. Like if I think back, like I know for sure that I went and sat through Little Nicky at the Dollar Theater.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I had my parents take me there, and like I bought a ticket, and then I watched the movie, and then waited for my parents to come pick me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've never walked out of a theater, so
I don't think I would do it now. But I think
No.
that that's also equal parts discernment. Like I just wouldn't end up in a theater watching something that I'd want to walk out of.
Right.
You know?
It's just, there's so much information about stuff now ahead of time, you know? You can just kind of check and see if it's going to be worth your time. So, you know, I've probably opted out of plenty of things that would be worth walking out of just by choosing not to see it. So
I walked out. The other time I've walked out of stuff is during the Lovecraft Film Fest.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like, I have, I want to get my money's worth. I want to see a bunch of stuff. And there's nothing really good in this block. I'll sit in this theater, there's room. And it's so boring. I'm like, I'd rather go sit in a Starbucks and drink some coffee or something. Or go grab lunch.
It's part of a bigger event than just like, nah, I'm a movie boy today. I'm going to go watch a movie at the theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what I say when I go watch a movie at the theater.
To no one in particular.
I'm a movie boy today.
To no one. Just to a mirror, gripping the sink like a lectern, sweating. Zach has given us our topic. Zach did not suggest this as a topic, but we're going to treat it as one. And we have edited this down just a little bit, just so you know. Zach says, I am brand new to gaming and trying to decide how to approach big genres like CRPGs that have tentpole classics in them. I'm not worried about older games turning me off right away because I have no experience with newer things to make my expectations unrealistic. I was listening to you talk about the Grand Theft Auto series, and you mentioned that you really shouldn't play GTA 3 because open world games have progressed so much since then. It made me wonder, would my experience with classic CRPGs be ruined if I played Disco Elysium first? I don't want something like Torment or Fallout to be harder to play because I've acclimated myself to something newer. What should I play first? So we're going to take this opportunity to kind of talk about that in a general sense.
Let's just call this the retro peril. Let's say, yeah. Either coming at something new without an understanding of where the genre or subject matter has been or how it had been treated previously. Will you appreciate Disco Elysium if you have not played Torment or Fallout? Or playing Disco Elysium and then going back to the admittedly rough putt of the interfaces in those games and kind of how crunchy they are in relation. You know, Disco Elysium like foregrounds different things, and Fallout is you're spending a lot of time doing fun tactical combat, but it's still tactical combat, right?
Yeah, and it's when Zach, when you say that like you had not played the older games, so you don't think that you would have a problem with the interface because you have no expectations, you would just because of design.
Yeah,
like they just make them easier,
right?
Yeah. So this is tricky. I don't like this is not useful, but I don't think there is a right answer for it.
Right.
Because it's going to depend. Like, let's say Zach played Disco Elysium, and he loved Disco Elysium. I think anybody who loves Disco Elysium will find something to really love in Planescape Torment. They're not about the same thing, but there's a similar caliber of kind of like depth and quality. You will find something to like. And it's a PC game, so you can just cheat it like crazy just to get past the parts that are annoying. But it's going to depend on how much you like Disco Elysium and how much getting that thing that you like is valuable to you. Yeah. Kind of going into our early questions where it's like, I just, you might do other things instead.
Like the risk of, putting this in the framework of previous questions, the risk of playing a classic game like Fallout or Torment into eating your vegetables, the risk of that is you might just decide to, I don't like this because of the way this is presented, shrug it all off, and then not get to the thing that you might like later on. Yeah. Right.
Like you like Brussels sprouts if they're pan fried in bacon, but you don't like them when they're boiled. They're both Brussels sprouts, and they're both good for you, but the preparation really matters.
Yeah.
For that kind of thing. And I run into this kind of idea a lot when somebody, not for someone just like playing casually, but when somebody wants to kind of be an authority or speak authoritatively about something, like minor pet peeve, but like websites will talk about RPGs and like the best ones of all time, and they'll always throw like Chrono Trigger in there, and I'm like, yeah, but there's like this whole list. There's no Fallout or Deus Ex or Torment or like anything like
Right.
like there's a tweet by somebody who I don't want to pick on, but it's saying that Chrono Trigger was the most mechanically satisfying RPG. And I was like, oh, it's the opposite of that actually.
I like
that's a really good game.
I like Chrono Trigger a lot. However,
yeah, that is a wild fucking statement. Like your family should be able to commit you for that statement. Like that is
we just need to figure out what the hell's going on, man.
yeah. Just no offense or anything. We just need to see if you're okay. Like,
just check your pupils at the very least.
Like that's just a wild statement, you know, and it comes from like a lack of grander context,
right,
for that genre, not knowing the forebears, not knowing the antecedents, you know, either,
or having an inaccurate or not expansive enough definition. Oh, like they're operating under a different definition of like what the four walls of RPGs are. Like, they're talking about JRPGs, or they're talking about JRPGs of this particular era, stuff like that. Like, not that gerrymander around things, but I think that's too, you know, their reach kind of exceeded their grasp there a little bit.
And even then, JRPGs of that era has Final Fantasy V.
Yes.
You know, in terms of like, that's a really, really false statement.
Yep.
kind of just objectively. And so one of the reasons why you might want to have that wider background is so you can speak to some authority about something. But if you're a layman, if you're not looking to do that, there's no real, you know, do the ones that you like play Disco Elysium because it's amazing. It's really good. If you really like that, there is some more flavor of that to be found in Torment. Very little in Fallout. Fallout's a very different game.
Yeah.
But you could still, like, if you like XCOM, or if you like, you know, obviously like Tides of Numenera or Wasteland or something, you'll probably like Fallout.
Yeah.
You know, you can go backwards like that and achieve that content that context if you are hungry for it.
Yeah. You know, the specific example here where we talk about, you know, with Grand Theft Auto 3 kind of being unnecessary because of things that came later, that is distinct as well, as compared to, you know, because specifically like, oh, the things that are cool about Grand Theft Auto 3, they've taken that and updated it, right? Like you're not going, you know, the compelling thing, you know, it's not like you're missing out on like huge story or whatever. Like
there's
they actually made it
left in it.
Yeah, like they took the stuff that was cool about it and made it easier and more fun to get at in later games, right?
Yes.
You know,
so you run into that a lot with platformers, right? Like people will say, you know, oh, I'm just pulling this example out of nowhere, but they'll be like, oh, the new remake of Donkey Kong, or like Donkey Kong Country 2 obviates Donkey Kong Country 1. And that's because you're not getting very much from Donkey Kong Country 1 that you're not getting from 2.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're getting a lot of story content or a lot of new ideas. That's kind of how GTA 3 might be, or, you know, as compared to later ones. I feel like there's probably, like, I'm not making this argument, but people probably make that argument who are more invested in like the Far Cries.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, who don't go back. Like, it's the reason why people say you should play Far Cry 2 and not Far Cry 1. Because it's like they just advanced it and figured something out.
Oh, yeah. They're like different things.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah. They advanced the genre and made it a different thing.
Yeah. You know, and it also becomes like a different question of, you know, as you're trying to like program this education for yourself, like, are you inadvertently forcing yourself to like stick to answering the question of what should I play of these if I just play one? You know? Yes. Yeah. Which, you know, don't unconsciously do that.
Yeah. You're not in a jigsaw house. You know, like you don't have to do that. You're not in Jigsaw House. You know, the new reality TV show. Yeah. Where 6 people named Jigsaw are all forced to share a house and date.
Many more people than 6 have called themselves Jigsaw. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying I'm not saying every person who's named Jigsaw.
Okay.
Just saying 6.
Okay.
The top
6 of them. The top 6 Jigsaws. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. 5 of them from the Saw movies and the Punisher villain.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they all have to pay rent and like figure out utilities and run a cafe. Run a cool coffee shop in downtown Amsterdam. Jigsaw House.
Jigsaw House.
Coming to Quibi. Like, so you don't have that false scarcity. Like sometimes someone will ask me and they'll be like, hey, I want to play one of the old Fallouts, which I play 2 or 1. And that's easy because it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
They're different stories. There's not that much continuity. Like you are choosing the one that's best. But if this is actually your thing, if you're not just eating your vegetables, there's no reason you couldn't just do both.
Yeah.
Do the better one and then get something out of the other one. A really good example of that I think of is Divinity Original Sin 2.
Right.
Which is so much better than 1. But I still think that like 1 is worth playing. Playing 2 won't ruin 1. You just have to set your expectations and you're going to be getting different stuff from it. Like you're going to be there for those stories and those character abilities and those specific tactical situations, which are a little bit different. There's still value there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And just, if you're looking at like a strategy to like for how to approach these, I don't think that there is really a peril here, especially with like what you have laid out, the specific examples, but like set aside an hour, put yourself to, to like go through the first dungeon of Torment, play the opening day of Disco Elysium, cause like the thing that I would recommend that you do is the thing that you're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
Don't chase the one that you're gonna like fall off of, I guess, because that would be a bad way to spend your time.
Yeah. And it's only an adjacent subject, but the idea of how much value there is in just having, the canon under you, always very specifically kind of reeks of gatekeeping.
Little bit, yeah.
With games. Like you can't call yourself a real gamer unless you've played, Super Mario Brothers 1. And that's fictional. Like that's not a real thing. Like
that amazing tweet that is like, if you only like Naruto, Dragon Ball, Neon Genesis Evangelion, it like lists off like 15 anime. You don't like anime. Like, oh, you need to like the 16th anime to like,
yeah. Like also, oh no. Be still my heart. What an accusation. Like, oh, them's fighting words. But like, if you like, so like Super Mario Brothers 3 to Super Mario Brothers 1, like those are similar games.
Yeah.
Mario Brothers 3 is more imaginative and fun and everything. And 1 isn't better. I guess the other thing what I was trying to circle is this also relates to the idea of everything needs to be increasingly better. Every time, like, I want to play the best version of this thing and they should just keep getting better. And that's the only one that has value. When sometimes like a B version of a Mario experience is what I want.
Yeah.
And I don't mean Galaxy. I mean, like, like I will take a B Mario or I will take a B CRPG because that's what I'm in the mood for.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be better. So like when you play a game, like when we did Dead Space, I was not super crazy about Dead Space 1. And a lot of people are like, Dead Space 2 is better. And I'm like, cool.
Cool. I don't know that I want a better version of what Dead Space does, actually.
Yeah. And, like, yes, there is the version to try if you're only going to try one, but like this also exists in the function of this podcast. I still wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
As is, Yeah.
Yeah. Think about doing this with any other kind of media, actually. Like, hey guys, I really would like to watch Hereditary. Okay. Will watching Hereditary ruin me if I decide that I want to go back and watch the original Dracula? Or let's not go back that far. Like, will Hereditary ruin me if I want to watch The Thing or like the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers, right?
Or even, Babadook or something, even something more recent.
Yeah.
Different content.
Yeah. Different content, different thing. And also like, I don't know. It doesn't seem to apply, actually.
Yeah. The idea that better media ruins worse media is kind of fictional.
Yeah.
Like that is, some people I think really do feel that, like, oh, why would I do this? This isn't the best version of it. And like, oh, look at you, Mr. Optimum, like fuck off. It's such an annoying attitude.
I'm worried that if I watch a color movie, I won't be able to go back and watch black and white. Well, the people who watch lots of black and white movies, they probably grew up watching a lot of color movies. Like, it gives
Yeah,
you context.
they made the
It's fine. You can
transition.
go backward. Yeah.
People went to talkies.
Yeah.
You know, I just, that idea that like you have to have, you know, if I'm going to play this, I'm going to play the best possible one. And that's it. Like,
Yeah.
this weird tier making, like tierification of everything in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Play the one you're going to play.
Yeah.
Like,
And the one that you're interested in, again, kind of, you know, dovetailing into the earlier thing.
Yeah,
Like when I first played Dragon Age 2, the first time, not this time, this last winter, it was just because I was like, dark fantasy. And that was literally it.
Ooh,
like, it was just like, that just
Navy
sounded, exactly. It was just, Navy SEALs. Like, it just sounded like that kind of shit. And that was, and that's like a, you know, a B game. You know, that's like a B. It's not perfect. It has tons of flaws. I like it quite a bit. But it, you know, lots of flaws. And it was just what I wanted at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I could have tied myself into knots being like, what is the most satisfying, highest caliber, you know, dark fantasy experience I could have. But why do that? Like, why doing that is not playing a game. Like, the time you spend optimizing your life, you're not living it. And you would be better off ripping a Band-Aid off in those kind of cases. Like,
I think about it this way, you know, like The Witcher 3 came out into 2015, right? I didn't play it until we covered it on the show. I spent 2 years, you know, not playing an incredibly good game because I was worried about having not played the first two Witchers.
yes,
You know?
you can deny yourself a lot
Yeah.
through that kind of this attitude.
Say fuck it. Live life to the hilt.
Yeah, this is one of the carpe diem issues. We don't always have. Yeah, we don't always have the "Oh Captain, My Captain" episodes of this show. Like, a lot of times we're dour and sad, but something about the energy of this one, we're telling you to go ask for that promotion. We're telling you to go play that video game.
It's out there waiting for you. Get it.
Yeah, get it. Video games are for closers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Thanks everybody for writing in. If you would like to ask us questions, the way you do that is by being a patron. You go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, and we put out a prompt once a month.
Yep.
We've been doing the catch-ups and stuff. We're looking for more everything, more questions and more topics. So if you'd like to suggest a prompt, please do. And now we are going to read your responses to February's games.
Yes, we are. A note on this. I feel like I say a version of this at the beginning of all of these. The Last of Us and Outer Wilds. Those are both games that lots of people have thoughts on. We got a lot of responses specifically about those, which led to more responses than usual, which meant I had to cut more. Please do not take it personally if your comment didn't make the cut. What most likely happened is that somebody else made a similar point, and I flipped a coin between them.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I definitely don't feel bad. Also, we edit these down, you know, and the way to avoid having, making a point that it doesn't, or is less likely to duplicate a point is that when you write in, you know, brevity and novelty are the big things. Like, we're less interested in just a review of the game and more interested in a specific observation or specific appreciation.
Correct.
Of the game. I'll get us started here with responses to Monster Train. Joey says via contact, Monster Train is a revelation. I love roguelike games. Is there a difference between roguelike and roguelite? Roguelite? Yes, there is. That was me editorializing. But this is just me coming back for more at an unhealthy frequency. Thank you for bringing it to my attention, because I have to admit the aesthetics made me skip it at first glance. Have either of you dipped into Risk of Rain 1 or 2? I was reminded of those by Monster Train because the aesthetics aren't the selling point, but the mechanics and gameplay are incredible. If you haven't risked the rain, I strongly recommend it. 2 is as good as it gets. I played Risk of Rain 1, not 2. I thought it was okay. I've heard 2 is really good. I just haven't played it yet.
I've played 1. It was very difficult, and I didn't have the energy at the time to get good at it.
Yeah. Roguelike is similar to the game Rogue. So it's a turn-based, kind of deterministic, like RPG kind of experience. And a roguelite is something that borrows those elements and puts it in a different genre.
Yes. Yeah. Patches writes in via contact saying, I decided to give Monster Train a shot after hearing you describe it as breezier and easier than Slay the Spire, and boy am I hooked. One thing I think stands out about the game is how far it leans into the cards are a framing device, but the game is digital. into that kind of a deal. Whether it be cards that create cards, cards that alter other cards during play, or the entire deal with the melting remnant, each of these mechanics might work in practice at the table, but the game calculating all of the effects makes play much more pleasant than it would be in cardboard. Cole, ask Gary if he knows anything about the commander format of Magic the Gathering. The result is that the game really leans into synergies in a way that makes you feel powerful, which you pointed out in the episode. Really fun. Thanks for pitching it to us.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Like games that could be cardboard or could be tabletop games, but it's much better to have the calculations just done.
Just let the computer facilitate it and rely on that so you can do more ambitious and weird and broken things. Yeah.
This is anything that has a random element to it. Does this really well too. Like Into the Breach could obviously be a board game.
Yeah.
But the chance of buildings or your power stations resisting would be kind of a pain to just like on rare occasions pull out some percentile dice.
Yeah.
And track those for each individual building would be kind of a pain.
Yeah. What is the commander format? Do you know?
No. People talked about it. I bet you it's fun, but I've been out of the game too long.
Okay.
So, William says via contact, hey guys, thanks a bunch for covering Monster Train on the show. I'm glad my pick was able to contribute to a run of positive experiences for you. Thank you, William. For me, Monster Train really hit at the right time. I knew I'd probably like it since I had a good time with Slay the Spire, but roguelikes don't usually hold my attention that long. I took the plunge and have now beaten Ascension 25 with 10 combos.
Holy shit.
I'm slowly working my way through all of them. It feels nice to have something breezy I can go to when I want some gamer treats. I love how much the devs want to empower the players, and going from bosses with 200 health in the first battle to 4,000 health for the high-level Seraph over the course of just 8 fights leaves me feeling very awesome and powerful. One of my favorite little tricks that demonstrates this so well is that you can actually overload the floor capacity by ascending, descending your own units. As I listened to the episode, I managed to take Seraph out again with a floor capacity of 12.
Holy shit.
I forgot to mention that, but like ascending and descending units is hugely powerful.
I totally didn't fuck with that. Like I thought that it was too fiddly.
I love doing there's the big red guy, the 50/50 demon guy, hellhorn guy, and I love like filling up having a complete floor and then shunting that guy down into the back row. So it's just a steady 50 damage and holding out against whatever else. Yeah,
nice.
Really good.
Good to know if I ever dip back into the game when that new expansion comes out. Yeah. And thank you for backing us on Monster Train, William. I'm super happy that we played that.
Great pick.
Yeah. Now on to The Last of Us responses about this. Obviously, we got some spoilers here, just so you're aware. Ethan writes in
same
via
thing
contact.
with Outer Wilds too.
Yeah,
like we'll just do the spoiler warning once. Like if you're sensitive about spoilers about these games, just know that the response will have them.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
But Ethan says via contact, this was the first real game that I played in my life. I played this as an early teenager, and it had a definite impact on my teenage years, and I really enjoyed the game. This is a solid 8.5 or 9 out of 10 for me. But the parts that this game fails at, it really fails at. Everything up to the farmstead countryside place is just a total slog, and most of the winter is really boring. However, the middle section of the game remains one of my favorite gaming memories of my life. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Jared says via contact, The Last of Us is the first game ending I loved because it made me angry. My initial reaction was, what the hell, Joel? I don't want to do this. Why won't the game let me choose not to do this? But I wasn't making the choice. Joel was. Playing a lot of choice-heavy RPGs had made me take a well-written linear narrative for granted. Seeing Joel's complex motives play out in a way that doesn't create a cookie-cutter, world-saving good ending is much more interesting than if Ellie had just died to save humanity. I'll take more brave writing choices like this that provoke thought and emotion, please.
Yeah. I think where you fall on the ending is going to largely be decided about whether you think it is adventurous or subversive, or just kind of lazy that they take the choice away from you in the context of a video game where that is something that we've been conditioned to expect. Choice
is something that, we talked about that in a dispatch as well, as a thing. it also kind of like dovetails into, I really want gamers to be more into bummer endings.
Yeah.
You know, we accept a wide variety of stories, you know, through other media that have really, really dour, depressing endings. You know, doing that with a game you have no choice about at the end is at least mildly subversive.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, we're not being used to forced to feel bad, you know, about something. And, you know us, make me feel bad.
Please make me feel bad.
Yeah.
Hit the tragedy. Play tragedy for me, please. Yeah.
Tragedy's good.
Takenoko writes via contact saying, The Last of Us. I really love the attention to detail in this game. During the winter section, you can open up Ellie's backpack, and she'll have a personal comment about each of the items, like her pun books, Sam's robot, and Riley's dog tags. I think playing through the game a second time, knowing Ellie and Riley's backstory, really helps recontextualize her actions and motivations. Like when Ellie says, it can't be for nothing, I think that's probably her survivor's guilt coming through. I know that that's absolutely there, and I never look at it. I never look through her stuff because I always forget, because I'm hunting that deer, man.
Yeah. Well, the deer's got to go.
Yeah.
You know?
The deer's
it's got to go.
The deer's in league with Big Giraffe, okay?
Yeah. Hello. Welcome to Toys R Us.
I'm Big Giraffe. Prepare to die.
Yeah. Yeah. The deer knew what it did. It might be fungal.
Yep.
You know? So
look at that shit growing out of its head. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. That is a nice detail that you can do that for sure.
Yeah.
Joey says via contact, I have to admit that in 2013, at the age of 23, I thought The Last of Us was a genre-defining masterpiece. It's something I'm ashamed of, but I totally agree with how you describe it, this game as art in your episode. I think this and God of War 2018 are the gold standard for cinematic AAA games in terms of presentation, dialogue, and storytelling, but they don't touch the likes of Disco Elysium in terms of nuance. Do you guys think there is a glass ceiling on big AAA titles like this in that regard, or is it possible for that model to break the mold of middlebrow storytelling? I totally agree this should not be a damning term. Is it possible to break the mold on a non-RPG? I kind of feel like if those two games didn't, nothing will. P.S. The giraffes had me rolling. Well, they'll do that to you.
Well, yeah,
like once they gain power.
They fuck with you just for fun, you know?
And inject you with MDMA and just send you on your way.
Yeah.
You know, at the giraffe rave. To rave.
Yep.
Dude, there's just a cloud of smoke with all the heads above it, with like pacifiers just like bouncing.
I love it. Yeah. Giraffe Moby at the front. Has no fur on his head.
Yeah. Giraffe Moby is a curse sentence. Like, I cannot give Moby the powers of a giraffe.
Nope.
If Moby could bring himself to food rather than food having to come to him, his power would be unstoppable, and I can't handle it.
Yeah, no. We need to corral him as much as we can.
Misery him, hobble him.
You know, I don't want to say never. I think that there are just limitations on kind of the commercial viability of something. I think there's probably only so much you can do in a game where your primary verb is move and shoot. That probably hems you in to a certain degree, not to just kind of take the easiest line on it. You know, can you break that mold in a non-RPG? Probably. Like, I don't know, Silent Hill 2 did it for me. Like, I think that qualifies up there in the upper echelon, and survival horror games were AAA and also kind of were just kind of garbage narratives up until that point.
Yeah. It's hard to remember that games from that era were AAA because they're feel so like, modest now. You know, kind of middle ground now. It's about the market. It's whether people actually want it.
Yep.
You know? And it's risky, and big AAA games don't like to take risks.
Right, because that's a lot of money in it, you know.
So even this is kind of, you know, at the time, a little risky, just in terms of, you know, coming off of Uncharted, the feel-good adventure story for Funtime Indiana Joneses. Yeah. Doing something like this kind of bleak was a little bit risky. And now things have subsumed where that's not risky. Yeah. Like God of War 2018 is not risky because that's become normal.
Right.
So I can imagine that happening, but just being very, very, very slow.
Yeah. I just, you know, there's always going to be the difference. There's going to be the vanguard that pushes that pushes the boundary, and then slowly things like that will become commercially viable as big commercial things catch up to it and start covering, you know, different ground. It's just a matter of waiting for that to happen, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
this is you or me?
I believe this is me. I didn't say the thing about the giraffes. That was you.
Okay.
George says via contact, it feels like mountains of digital ink have been spilt over the ending of this game. All sides make interesting points, but what's impactful about the choice to me is that, right or wrong, Joel makes it because he's grown as a person from where he was back in Boston. If Joel was more selfish, more mercenary, more of a hard man who makes hard decisions, it would be easy to leave Ellie with the Fireflies. It's precisely because he has become slightly less self-interested and slightly more willing to open up and have compassion for someone besides himself that he can't bring himself to let Ellie die. Whether his actions were right or wrong, it's the very human values of love and compassion that will doom any chance of a cure. And that's why I think it's such a gut punch of a trolley problem.
It's like an overcorrection.
Yeah. I don't know that I agree with George, because I feel like it's a little bit Joel saying fuck you to people he doesn't know, to infinite number of people he doesn't know, to save one person that he does.
Well, and also, I mean, he's kind of saying fuck you to somebody he does.
Yeah.
Like taking the choice away from Ellie is not an act born of compassion that is not a compassionate act.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if anything, like, I think that, like, it's true that the early Joel would not have done it. Mm-hmm. This Joel, who would, it is in some ways more compassionate, and in other ways, like, that's what makes it interesting, is it's like simultaneously compassionate and monstrous.
It's funny because it talks about growth from the beginning. Like, he does go, like, right back to the beginning to before the beginning. He takes his, he reclaims his daughter that was taken from him. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, free daughter. Holland says via contact, I'm writing this before hearing you guys take on the game, so I apologize if I am pissing on your or anyone else's hush puppies. There's no other. I just felt like it should be there. The Last of Us landed like a wet fart for me. I ended up not even finishing it, which is rare. The most damning element in my mind was how visibly scripted it was. Never has a game that's trying not to look or feel like a game actually looked or felt so much like a game. The flagging was incredibly transparent. Each encounter or conflict felt like a WarioWare style challenge, and the traversal felt glaringly staged. Now, don't get me wrong, I like video games, and I like that video games act like video games. Dark Souls traversal is staged as hell, but that works because it takes pride in it. I think what turned me off was the general Naughty Dog attitude of, we're not Pong, we're interactive films, man. We're an emotional experience. You're really not. You're a series of underwhelming, uncreative challenges, poorly guised in the mask of a cheesy, predictable story. And you're trying to tell me you're not just a video game? What's that in my pants? Oops, it's a wet fart. Let me check my underwear. Yep, it's spelled out The Last of Us.
Fuck.
Holland, there's a real word picture there at the end, dude.
I think he was doing Abject Suffering intro. That's why I just entered it in, the Abject Suffering intro.
I don't like the idea of sharding a word.
That's how your body tells you things?
Yeah. It's gross. I had a different experience with it, but I definitely agree that it is gamey as hell.
Yeah, and if you don't have patience for that, you don't have patience for it.
Yeah, there is a pretension to it. It is like trying not to be gamey, but, again, literally Joel walks up and says, I can't believe, here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah, in the cargo yard where it's like, looks like we got a fight coming up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sean writes via contact saying, I played The Last of Us on release and immensely enjoyed it. The beautiful visuals and visceral combat, not to mention the story, had me hooked. I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic fiction in any form, so of course I was swept up in the initial "this game has no faults, 10 out of 10 game of the generation sponsored by Mountain Dew" discourse. Obviously, this was not true, as no game is perfect, and I have since outgrown that mindset. However, this game still hit me at the perfect time, and to commemorate it, I had the Firefly logo tattooed on my bicep. Nothing like getting a tattoo of a fake terrorist organization to represent your fandom of a video game. And it wouldn't be my last tattoo either. Having played and enjoyed the sequel, maybe more so, with the huge swings that the story takes, I had Ellie's in-game tattoo buzzed into my arm. Unoriginality notwithstanding, no regrets. Anyway, fast forward several years. While replaying the remastered version, the intro in Texas hits me like a ton of bricks. My girlfriend at the time and I were just getting over the loss of our unborn child the years prior. While I did not have the same kind of father-daughter relationship Joel had with Sarah, I could still empathize with this kind of sudden horrific loss. During this playthrough, all of the highs and lows of the narrative hit me extra hard, the moral ambiguity of the ending especially. I'd like to think that I would be able to put my personal feelings aside for the betterment of humanity, but I don't think that I could. If I were in Joel's shoes and I had to make the decision of saving the human race or saving my surrogate daughter, I can honestly say that I would selfishly choose to doom humanity for someone that I loved. P.S. I don't think that I could go on the patented Joel murder rampage, though.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for your loss. Yeah, it is. That reminds me of the anecdote from the developer where he said, like, he was watching with his dad, and his dad was like, I wouldn't do that, but I would do it if it was you kids.
Yeah.
Like it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a theme in the next couple of responses that we're going to see, at least the one from Doug here. But this does, hit different for people who have kids, and I believe someone when they say that to me.
When are they going to make a game for me, the barren male?
Hello, I'm barren male.
When will my fetid loins be represented in games?
Nuts and gum together at last.
I'm not trying to make light of any of this.
No, it's
just joking because it's sad stuff.
Yes, and that's what we do. But thank you for sharing, and I appreciate that perspective.
Doug says via contact, The Last of Us was a powerful signifier to me that had fundamentally changed after becoming a parent. Upon release in 2013, I loved the game and beat it multiple times through its highest difficulty. My take on its philosophical questions was fairly similar to yours. After my daughter was born, I picked up the PS4 remaster, and despite my familiarity with the game, I couldn't emotionally handle it and had to put down the controller. The game largely turns on how Joel answers the trolley problem. While I could previously empathize with his choice, now I get in my bones why it's the only choice. If my daughter was on the tracks, it's impossible to conceive of anything that would make me choose to run the trolley over her, no matter how massive the damage on the other side. Perhaps Joel dooms the world, though the game gives us no evidence that the Fireflies' plan would actually work, or that with a little patience and research, there's a non-lethal way of developing a cure for Ellie. But he who saves one life saves the world entire. None of this is to criticize your coverage, only to point out that the game looks very different once you become a parent.
Yeah, no, I didn't take it as a criticism. It's different data that we don't have, Yeah. We both have similar life experiences and come from a similar place as childless, adult men. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see that making a big difference.
Yeah.
I do not have a child. I am capable of incredible and deep love. Mm-hmm. And I even don't know, if you were to take, one of my closest friends or family members, or, my girlfriend or something and put them on the track, whether I'd make that choice. It is easier to make the choice from the outside.
I was about to make the joke, a joke about sacrificing you, to do it. But then I thought, no, that'd probably be pretty bad. That'd be a mean thing to say.
Well, and also it'd be, be tough logistically.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I thought about that before, like not fantasized about it, but just been like, what happens if Cole gets really sick? Like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
And like, I gotta like, what would I do?
Yeah. What's the future of that? Yeah.
Yeah. What's cause it's not a fun thing to think about.
No, it's not.
So I stop.
Yeah. Oh God. And then we have Nico, who writes in via Argentina. This is my periodic reminder that I do like when people let us know where they write from. The Viva contact versus Viva location debate here. But Nico writes in, I felt compelled to write to talk a bit about, in my opinion, the non-choice that Joel takes at the end of The Last of Us. For years, people gave praise to The Last of Us for its storytelling, usually wrapping their praise up with what a great impactful ending it had. But I remember when I played it through, I actually felt quite the opposite. Don't get me wrong, the last scene in particular, in which Ellie questions Joel and he upholds his lie, and they both implicitly agree to drop the issue and move on, was, in my opinion, a great stepping off point for the game and a great way to close off the character arcs. That being said, the moment where Joel is presented with the, quote, choice felt very, very cheap for me. The fact that Ellie's death is presented as a certainty in order to determine the cause of her immunity reduces the weight of this moment significantly to a simple premise. The Fireflies are asking Joel to stand by while they kill Ellie. How could that even be a choice for him? By this time, we've known Joel for the full length of the game, basically, and we know that he'll do whatever he deems necessary to keep her alive. It's just a fact. Think about it. Wouldn't it be so much more powerful if they said it was a 50-50 chance and Joel made the same choice? It would color him much. It would color him a much darker character, perhaps, but it would also have been a real choice with weight and foreseeable consequences. Making it so that they would have to sacrifice Ellie only justifies Joel's morals further in my eyes, denoting that a humanity that goes to such lengths is not one worth saving. All that being said, I still enjoyed it at the time and decided that the final scene was such a good cutoff point that I never found any interest to buy and play the second one. Yeah, so making it so that it's not like a 50% chance about whether or not it will succeed, but a 50% chance about whether Ellie will live or die would add much more shade to it, I think. Make it more ambiguous.
It would definitely make it more ambiguous as is. Like the way Nico is coming at this from saying that it's, that Joel made the only choice. Like knowing that she would die, this is the only choice. And that's something that I don't feel, but it's been interesting to see people talk about it, like in the Slack and such. Some people are just like, oh, like, of course you wouldn't do it. It's ridiculous. Same thing Nico's saying, like any society that would sacrifice a girl for medical research is not worth saving. And I, got some bad news about the society we're in.
Yeah, sorry.
But it has been done quite a bit. But it's interesting people's personal, moral kind of barometer on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a 50-50 chance would make it more, it would convince people who are on that side of things, but it would gild the lily for me.
Yeah.
Who is like, yeah, humanity is worth one life, so I could see how that would help in a subjective sense, but depending on kind of what side you're on.
Yeah.
Of things.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, when we were talking in the Slack, and a couple of people brought up that there was no guarantee that the Firefly solution would work. There's not, but it kind of has to for the irony of the game to work.
Yeah.
You know, like just in the fiction, I think that it is better to assume that it would. The idea that the choice was literally just meaningless and like there was no reason to make it is not dramatically sound. I think
the story is not as absurd as that.
Yes,
it doesn't play in a space where that would be a possibility. For as gray as Joel is as a character, and for the fact that like at the very end they play with a shared lie, like there are those ambiguities there. Nothing up to that point had been that kind of like playful with the darkness of it. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Moving on to Outer Wilds responses.
Wildly divisive game.
Wildly divisive. Jacob says via contact. Outer Wilds is a game that I really wish I loved, but even after 8 or so hours with it, it never truly clicked with me the way it seemingly did for everyone else. I found the time loop mechanic incredibly restrictive for my preferred method of interaction, to the point where it kind of ruined any enjoyment I got out of exploration. The first time I found a new area on, say, the Sand Planet, only to immediately get crushed and realize I'd have to start another loop to investigate it fully, was mildly interesting. The 10th time it happened was frustrating. I do want to give it another shot, though. Hopefully the second time's a charm.
Maybe.
Yeah, I had the same experience. Like, there's an asterisk next to my appreciation of Outer Wilds. I found it frustrating as an experience. Like, I found it worth it, but I also think that sucked.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it that I thought kind of sucked.
I fall on the opposite side, where I judge you and Jacob, anybody else, as a person if you can't put that aside and
clearly the game of the year 2019.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All the people on Twitter said so. So it's
I obviously don't. I'm having fun. We've been recording for a long time. I'm feeling kind of punchy.
Getting loopy.
Yeah. But yeah, it is the friction. Friction gonna friction.
Yeah.
Forrest writes via contact saying, there are many things I loved about Outer Wilds, but my favorite is the way that your explicit end goal is hidden until the end of the game. About halfway through my playthrough, I remembered thinking, what am I even trying to do here? What's so cool about Outer Wilds is that it had taken me this long to even wonder that, and yet I was still super compelled to keep playing. Most games will set out the end goal from the start, but Outer Wilds is so intrinsically fun to play that it isn't necessary. Finding the ending is great too. Learning that this truly is the end of the universe is incredible, especially when you notice how much darker the night sky is at the end of the time loop. All you can do is be there when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like a cilantro thing, that's like the opposite of the last response where, having the goal, is so fun to keep playing that it didn't matter that there's a goal versus I know there's a goal here that's worth getting to, but it's so not fun to play.
Yeah. I am so invested in the world and the mystery that I'm just going to go along and keep pulling threads until it gives me the direction.
Yeah.
I'm going to direct myself because this is intrinsically rewarding to me.
Yeah. Big cilantro.
Yeah.
Fenraliania, who sponsored the episode, says via contact, Outer Wilds is one of 2 games that dramatically change my view of games and how I make them. I consider it to be a perfect game, not that it lacks flaws, but that from a design perspective, it fully explores an idea with no additions or subtractions to the finished game that would have made it better at that. But that's a topic I'm slowly making an entire video essay about. Nice. I could and would go on and on about my love for the Nomai history, the characters, the many little details of the world. I truly do love all that. But more than anything, I love how the game unfolds itself exclusively by giving you information. Every time I get new information, my understanding of the story changed dramatically, but it rarely felt like I was missing crucial details, even though I always was. At one point, I found information indicating that the sun station was triggering the supernova, and it all clicked into place. Obviously, I needed to disable this power source that I was talking about, and we'd be saved. I found my way into the Ash Twin Core, opened up the power source, but there was just enough doubt and fear in my mind that I sat, floating, staring at that battery for 5 minutes before I changed my mind and decided to look for more information. When I boarded the sun station later, the dawning horror of how close I had come to disaster hit me in a way that I didn't expect from a video game. Thank you for covering the game, and I hope it was even a fraction as affecting for you both as it was for me.
It was affecting.
Yeah. Yeah, great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well observed and well put.
Yeah. And thank you for having us play it. I think that, I would agree with you. I side with Fenraliania on the appeal of the game. We don't need to keep on putting ourselves on one side of the line or the other. But
I like the game. Like we don't have to put ourselves like on the, the classic Watch Out for Viral showdown of like and respect versus love.
Yep. This did remind me, though, with Fenriliana talking about how the game, kind of does most of what it does by providing more information as a reward for the things that you do. A little bit of errata that was brought to our attention later that neither of us noticed. The reason why your rumor tracker holds information between runs is because the ship's computer is based off of Nomai technology. And so it was able to withhold, keep the information between, quantumly or what have you. Like if you look at it, it specifically like is designed. There's like a chunk of Nomai stuff kind of attached to it. So that is like the in-game narrative reason for why it is held over.
I find that really flimsy. Like, I think that is what they were doing, but like, nobody talks about it, but we built a computer out of this ancient civilizations thing that we built to transcend time loops. We don't know that there are time loops, but we built something that uses this.
Yeah.
It's
by
fine.
accident, it does this. It's still an artifice. It's good that they said something about it. Joshua says via contact. Oh, no, this is you. This is me. Joshua says via contact. For me, Disco Elysium and Outer Wilds were 2 of the most important releases of 2019. While wildly different in terms of gameplay and scope, they both use a central mystery as a hook to pull you through a world facing the end of all things, on a micro and macro scale, respectively. They are both masterpieces, but if I had to pick one that I favor, Outer Wilds speaks to me a little more directly. Disco Elysium is an immensely sad game because it lives squarely at the present moment, on the precipice of the abyss, just moments before society dives into that deep dark. It's impossible not to despair before that plunge. Outer Wilds takes a longer and larger view of things, and though its characters face an even worse and irreversible cataclysm, the game has a much more hopeful and optimistic tone. I've always taken great comfort in the impermanence of things. Sure, that means the good times are fleeting, but so are the bad times. Watching Outer Wilds characters play out the end of the world and usher in the new one that they'd never even seen spoke to that part of me. Because even the end of the world, the end of the universe even, isn't permanence. Everything in society could sink into the deepest shade of Mad Max Fury Road flavored black, and there would still be a peak after that valley. Even if humanity is wiped out, life continues regardless. Everything ends, but everything changes even in the end. So there is always some glimmer of hope, even if that hope isn't meant for us.
Yeah, this is the philosophical, like, underpinning that kind of separates this. After we did this episode, I talked a lot in the Slack with a bunch of people about this, and me trying to figure out why I was slightly colder on this game than everyone else.
Yeah.
And this is part of it. I don't believe that. Like, I think that life will probably be just fine, but the idea that there has to be something new, like that there can't be an end, is something that that's a matter of faith.
Yeah.
That would be the case. And anything taking a long view quite this big, I have a really hard time finding comfort in.
It becomes kind of you run up against the rule of large numbers, where it becomes impossible to comprehend. Yeah.
Yeah. Always going to care about boots on the ground. Like the people who are now, and it just, I don't take a lot of comfort from things that are so far after I'm going to be there. And also I don't necessarily think, that there will be a peak after that valley.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? But I can conceive of, there not being life.
Yeah. It's not like you're casting a vote saying that it's not going to happen and that's going to make it so.
Yeah. I don't have a doomsday laser.
Yeah.
But I that seems to be like the philosophical underpinning, whether you find this like very optimistic or and in a way that speaks to you, or you find it optimistic in a way that does not reflect, humanity enough. Yeah. And for me, I didn't see a lot of humanity in this. Like, I don't see a lot of people reflected in these Muppets. Like this is a very aspirational game. This is a game about how the developers wish people were.
Yeah.
As opposed to and Disco Elysium is a game about how people actually are.
Yeah.
In a way that I think, flipped that dichotomy for me. But that's obviously 100% subjective.
Yeah.
I would like it if people were more curious and everything. They're not. No. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though I, am more warm on Outer Wilds than you are, Gary, I think that I do ultimately come down on the Disco Elysium side of things. If it is kind of like a choice, if we have to fight the Pokemon, I'm gonna bet on Disco Elysium. I would, without getting into spoilers, I think that what Disco Elysium ends on actually is pretty hopeful for the broader state of things. Like, it is on the precipice, but there's enough of a hint that things are, not always going to be progressing towards whatever, towards the void that you think it is. Yeah.
Well, and that game cares really, really deeply about the people who exist on the precipice.
Yes.
Which is something that Outer Wilds doesn't. Like, Disco Elysium has more in common with Night in the Woods, with that respect, in terms of like big existential games. In the Night of the Woods, like at the end of everything, hold on to anything. Yeah. Outer Wilds doesn't feel like it's about that. It's kind of more like there is no end of everything because there will always be this kind of future. It doesn't matter. It's time for something new now. It doesn't matter that you're not there to see it. Yeah. And the act of holding on to what's on the precipice is just, touches my heart a lot more. Yeah. Love that precipice. Yeah. But they're both valid readings. It's just, very subjective.
They're going to resonate differently for different people.
Yeah. Matthew says via contact, I could talk about The Outer Wilds for hours. It feels like every piece of information you learn or area that you explore is rich with intrigue and thoughtfulness, so I'll briefly outline some of my standout moments from the game. First, I landed on the quantum moon by accident, kinda. I knew you had to be able to see the quantum objects for them to stay in position, but I couldn't understand why I couldn't just fly into it. I'm looking right at it. As a joke, I shot my probe at it and took a picture, figuring that I was double looking at it now and not expecting it to work, expecting to fly right through the moon and back into space. Instead, I ended up on the surface of this bizarre world. This is probably my favorite moment in the game, and I wish I had a camera on my face because I was pretty sure my mouth was agape and stunned silent. Second, I can't do scary stuff, and the anglerfish gave me actual panic attacks while I was trying to navigate dark bramble. It's some of the scariest stuff I've experienced, and this is not a horror game. So, well done, devs. This is one of my all-time favorite games. I'm glad you covered it. Cheers.
I love that the game called your bluff on the double looking at it thing.
Well, do we ever figure out why just looking at it doesn't lock it in place?
I'm sure there's a reason that has to do with like the cloud cover or something like that, but it doesn't explicitly say.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah,
but
because if you're flying directly at it, you're going to be looking at it because it's right in front of you. Kind of can't not look at it unless you close your eyes. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Cinder writes in via contact saying, early in my playthrough, before figuring out how to reach the probe tracking module at the core of Giant's Deep, I tried following the probe in my ship. After a few failed attempts, I managed to follow the probe out of the solar system. I launched my ship into the probe in such a way that I felt safe, that I wouldn't disconnect and float off, with the cockpit pointed in the direction that we were traveling. So that I could see the probe arrived, so I could see if the probe arrived somewhere. After that, I could walk around my ship freely, letting the probe do the rest. During that journey, I used the signal scope to keep track of how far away that the solar system had gotten. And I used the map to see where we were located in relation to it. I soon noticed that our trajectory arced downward on the map. We never reached any destination. By the time the sun supernovaed, I could see that we had completely swung around and were now directly under the sun, 720,000 kilometers away from the nearest planet. The supernova never actually reached me before the cycle reset. Instead, my screen started shrinking and fraying at the edges, and then I woke by the fire.
Non-standard ending.
Yeah. The Alone in Space ending. Yeah.
It's scary. Yeah. It's fun to stumble on that kind of shit. I didn't do that. I just saw that you could.
Yeah.
So it's fun to read about, but also it'd be fun to experience as well.
Yeah. I thought about trying it, but I figured that the probe would be moving so fast that I wouldn't be able to catch up to it. Like relativistically. Yeah.
Mitch says via contact, I really wanted to like this game more than I did. On paper, it's an interesting concept, fun exploration mechanics, hectic moment-to-moment action, and an engaging metaphysical story. In action, however, I felt increasingly frustrated about the time constraint. I wanted to go to a planet and get lost. I wanted to find weird shit and take time to really think about it. The game wants you to do that, but to me, it never felt like it allowed you to do that. There was nothing more frustrating going to a place at the wrong time and realizing you'll have to start a run over. In the beginning, it was interesting. In the end, I just picked up a walkthrough to finish finding the interesting stuff. I really liked the story they were telling, but at the end, it just felt like a walking sim with more friction.
Yeah.
Again, that's a valid psychographic response to the Outer Wilds.
I can understand it. Yeah.
Something that I was thinking about with this, with Fenreliania's response was that, the thing that you get in this game is information. Like all of the are just new information. And my perspective is the way this does it is better than a game such as like Her Story, which is also just about what you know. Yeah. But this seems like that is a double-edged sword. Adding those extra little steps and stuff like that can actually be detrimental as well.
Yeah. I can see it.
So I can see it. Yeah.
Rounding out here with Gordon, who writes in via contact, saying, I'm going to come right out and say it. I think Outer Wilds is the greatest adventure game ever made. You go from being lost and bewildered to achieving such total understanding of the system that accidentally losing your ship doesn't stop you hopping between planets. That is one of the greatest progressions I've ever experienced, and it's all done by increasing player knowledge. The staggering level of interconnectedness in this game is probably tickling the right parts of my soul's lobe, but the fact that all of these connections are hidden in plain sight highlights just how clever the designers are. And what other game would accidentally falling into a black hole not kill you, but instead guide you towards learning to use the planetary teleport system?
Yeah. Yeah. The really good moment. Great touch.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, there's a spellcasting 101 number 3 in terms of greatest adventure games ever made. So close, but no cigar.
Spellcasting 101 number 3. What?
I was just trying to think of an obscure adventure game.
Okay. All right.
The Spellcasting 101 series.
Okay.
The Simon the Sorcerer 3.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just joking.
Joking.
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon, rather. I appreciate you. If you have things to say about next month's games, you still have time. Hit us up at duckfeed.tv/contact to talk to us about Trauma Center, Under the Knife, or Trauma Center Second Opinion.
Yes.
Not Under the Knife. The Magic Circle, or Shadow of Mordor.
Get them Urix. Yeah, the deadline for that is, March the 15th. Sorry, I am already losing track of what month it is. If you have thoughts about April's games, the deadline is April the 15th. Again, duckfeed.tv/contact. Gary, do we want to announce what those are, or do we want to leave it to the ARG folks?
In a cipher. The first game we're covering, we're doing a two-parter. Two-parter in the beginning of the month. Pretty rare. But we are finally covering Divinity Original Sin 2.
Yeah. I feel so. Divinity Original Sin 2 has come up a lot, I think, because we've known this is coming down the road, and also, so I feel like we've just been making reference to it because it's on the plate. Same thing with what we're covering after that. I feel like I've made a lot of mention to a particular game recently because I'm thinking about it. After we do the two-parter on Divinity Original Sin 2, we're going to be playing Myst 2, Riven, the sequel to Myst.
Yeah. What a gear shift. That is going to be like completely different types of games.
Yeah.
After that. And then as a palate cleanser, the premium episode for that is going to be Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus.
Yes.
Will it be as heady and intellectual as Riven? Time will tell. Yeah. Yes. Someday I'll get sick of that joke, but right now I'm still pretty into it.
No, is that a joke, or is that just a construction that you use over and over again?
Well, I think that the joke is that I'm taking things that by no means will engender as much conversation.
Right.
Time will not tell, because I feel like it seems pretty obvious that Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus will not. Not that's going to be a good episode, but
right. No, it's been a while since I played a Ratchet and Clank game, and
you'll learn the language of the Clanks. Planet
of the Clanks. Sorry.
Yeah. Feel the rhythm of the Clanks. So that's going to be our premium episode for that month, which means everybody gets the generalities, but patrons get the full episode, similar to Shadow of Mordor and Outer Wilds.
Yes.
Become a patron, patreon.com/duckfeed.tv.
Please do. You get the full versions of those episodes. You get thanked at the beginning of episodes. You get things like whole other bonus shows. It's a good time.
And that's about it.
Think so. Ratings or reviews, telling your friends.
Yeah. We appreciate everyone who does those things.
Yes. And until next time, go Team Venture.
Go Team Venture.